We are the salt of the earth.
Yeah.
Luke 14, would you read verses 34 and 35?
Salt is good, but if the salt has lost its flavor, how shall it be seasoned? It is neither fit for the land nor for the dunghill, but men throw it out. He who has ears to hear, let him hear.
Now it's interesting, that expression he uses, it was different in yours, but it's the same expression in both Matthew and Luke, if the salt loses its flavor. The actual word in the Greek is the same word we get moron from. 'Tis true. It's the same word. So it's like saying, if the salt loses its flavor and becomes like a moron, that's really basically the kind of expression. If it becomes a complete idiot and wastes all the gifting, all the talent, all the love, all the blessing, all the beauty, all the wonder that I've given it. That's possible. That can happen. And it can become worthless. It's just good for nothing. We're not talking about salvation, heaven, and hell. We're just talking about usefulness on this planet. And all of us here probably know at least one person who could be doing so much more than they are, in terms of they're so wonderful, they've got so much to offer, and they're not. Well, where did they get all that to offer? What is that? Well, would you read the first 3 verses again, or the first 3 words you read?
Salt is good.
Stop there. What did you say? What was the first thing you read?
You're the salt of the earth.
One more time.
Salt of the earth.
Salt is good.
Salt of the earth.
Salt is good.
I mean, like I said last week, we had the 2 little ones in the Sunday school. They're little peanuts. I said, I guarantee you, if I brought Bella and Gabby in here, and I said, you know, you are salt. Salt is good. What does that make you? Even a child would say, oh, I must be good. It's not, you know, it's not rocket science. It's not Aristotelian logic. I mean, it's just, it's so simple. You are the salt of the earth. Salt is good. I want to close this first point with a story to really hit this thing home. Because what we're talking about is salt. Jesus said that we're salt. Salt is good. Jesus went about doing good because he was good. We go about, we do good because we are good. But here's the other part of it. There's a guy that I read, I have over the years extensively, because I really like the way he writes and his take on things. John Shea, a Roman Catholic priest. Really, really good brother. Anyway, John tells the story of a friend of his, another Roman Catholic priest, who was assigned to an inner city church. That was his parish. He shows up at this parish, and it's a very, very rough neighborhood. And he looks and he sees that they've got a basketball court, you know, the parking lot. They've got the poles, they've got the rims, but they've got no nets. And they don't have any basketballs either. So he appeals to the board, says, I noticed the poles, you know, the rims, but no nets, no basketballs. I'd like to put some nets up there. I want you guys to buy some nets and buy some basketballs so people, the kids in the neighborhood, inner city, can stop and, you know, shoot hoops, play basketball on the court. And they thought that was kind of funny. They said, really, you do realize where you are in the inner city here? He said, yeah, I know. So where are you going to put the balls? They said, well, we'll just put the balls in a net and tie a knot in the net and tie it to one of the poles so they can get at the balls anytime that they want. And they said, those balls won't last a day out there. And he said, well, I believe that you want to provide good basketballs for good children. And they said, what do you mean? He said, well, I don't want you to buy cheap basketballs. I want you to buy expensive basketballs. I want good basketballs for these kids. They said, we just told you They'll be gone in a day. They'll steal them. He said, good basketballs for good kids. So they said, okay, figuring he'll learn. So they went out, they put the nets up, put the balls in a net, tied it to the pole. The first week, one of the basketballs got stolen almost immediately. The next one, I left 2, the next one lasted about a month. It got stolen. The third one hung around for 5 months before it got stolen. So they said to the priest, well, we got to hand it to you. You know, they lasted 5 months. That's a lot longer than we thought they would last. And he said, yeah, please go out and buy 3 more. And they said, cheap ones, right? You see what's going to happen. He said, no. Expensive basketballs. And they said, okay. And they went out and bought 3 more basketballs, expensive ones, and put them in the nets for the kids to play basketball. Why? Because he said, good basketballs for good kids. Now, this is not praised, but I'm going to say it anyway, that you guys always prepare great meals to bring here. I almost want to cry thinking about it, because I know the way you think and what's in your heart. Good food for good people. Good food for good people. This guy was onto something. He realized, he said, those kids are good salt. You could think of it this way. I said to the Spanish kid last week, I might be Puerto Rican, I said, if you were hungry, and I basically gave you garbage, not only would you be upset with me for giving you garbage, you would feel like garbage. He's giving me garbage because I am garbage. Good basketballs for good children. We haven't engaged that yet. We think in terms of good enough. We think in terms of, have you taken a look at that kid from Nazareth? Are you kidding me? You're going to give him something good? Yeah, because good stuff comes out of Nazareth. So give good stuff to good people. So, but you just said a moment ago, everybody's good. Right. Jesus went about doing good. And the ones who were oppressed, he healed them. He released them from their oppression. So the second point, I'm not trying to portray Jesus as like a philanthropist, although the original Greek meaning of a philanthropist, going back to 400 or 500 BC, ancient Greece, was someone who loved humanity and went about doing good. In other words, they loved humanity and they did something about it. It wasn't like, oh, I just love people, but they never do anything for anybody. What do you mean you love people? If you loved people, you'd be doing something with and for them. A philanthropist was one who loved people, who cared enough to do something about their love for people. Nowadays, philanthropic organizations, there's a variety of things that happen, but the original philanthropist, Jesus, really is the epitome of a philanthropist, the epitome of a benefactor, like we were talking about before. God anointed him, God was with him, we read. So it starts with God, it ends with God. And Peter makes it clear that Jesus was a sign to the world of God's love. We saw what he did. He was a sign. He was pointing and making sure everybody knew about God's love. We know about signs, we deal with them all the time. They point to something, to someone, to some place, some person. Anybody shop at Price Rite? There's no signs in the store. Aldi's? There's no signs in Aldi's either. You either got to know the store or keep walking around and walking around and walking around trying to find something.
It doesn't make any sense sometimes either. The way they have things set up.
No.
Like,
But it's an
just
awful
like some
thing.
shampoo.
Yeah, really. It's an awful thing to need a sign, to need some salt, and not have one. And groping, looking and looking. Anyway, the point is that Jesus was the ultimate sign. And he was very clear about who he was pointing to, what he was pointing to. And he says to us, just like Peter says, we are witnesses of what he did. He was a witness of God. He was a sign. We are signs. And so we're challenged in this place of being the kind of sign that people are shopping, people are looking. I know Price right now. I know where everything is. But I also know this. There may be stuff there that I don't know. Because I just don't know every single product. And there may be something I want that's actually there, but I can't find it. A sign would be really helpful. That's usually when I ask somebody, excuse me, do you have this particular product? Oh yeah, they take me right to it. Salt and signs. But the bottom line is that these people got saved. Because that's what the salt and signs are for ultimately. These Gentiles got saved, the Holy Spirit was poured out upon them.
I like how it was as soon as he said that they were forgiven.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
That's really neat. I don't think I would have made that connection before. No.
It is the key, it's just, I can speak for myself that the day I heard the truth in that little church in Brockport, he said a lot that morning. I've told people before that I was a philosophy minor in college. I forget how many hours I had. It's like a double major almost I had between music and philosophy. And when I listened to the preacher in that little church talk about Jesus and the gospel and the truth, I knew I was hearing the truth. And what I remember getting out of the sermon was that I was not part of the solution. I was part of the problem. I always thought I was part of the solution. And it became very clear that I was not part of the solution. I was part of the problem. And as I was challenged in all the problems I had created in my life, and I had created quite a few, the message I was hearing was that you're forgiven. And it sounds so simple, but it was huge. The weight that I felt leave me, knowing that God had forgiven me. And he didn't have to. Anyway. It's a great verse. I've said over the years, you know, the well doesn't have a mission statement, vision statement, anything like that. But if we were to take a verse as kind of like a mission statement, that God has anointed us. All of us from Nazareth, so to speak. He's anointed us with His Holy Spirit, with power. And that we go around doing good, being useful to other people in situations, to the point of leading people to the Lord.